What's going on, everyone? I want to break down an easy 5-minute strategy that you guys can use to pass prop firm challenges, to get payouts if you're already funded, or to make money on a personal brokerage if you guys would like to trade the NQ Nasdaq futures. Again, guys, if you would like to join us at Evolution Traders, right now I'm running a deal where you guys can get in for half price for the year. You get access to all of the courses, all of the watch list, the live trading webinars, all of the real-time news, the one-on-one coaching, so forth and so forth. That link is down in the description box below. Now, we're going to go over very quickly how to set up your charts. First things first, I am using the Think or Swim platform. Even though I trade for Apex Trader Funding as well as Top Step, I do all of my charting on Thinkorswim. The reason why, I've been trading options on Thinkorswim for the past 7.5, almost 8 years. It's easy to me. I like the charting. I'm comfortable, right? So again, you can use TradingView, you can use NinjaTrader, you can use whatever you want. Some of the indicators are going to vary from platform to platform. So again, before you guys start asking, how do I get this? How do I get that? All I know how to do is put it on Thinkorswim. Okay. So if you guys want to, open up a Thinkorswim platform, a brokerage account with TD Ameritrade and use a platform, go ahead and do that. So what we're looking at here is a few things. The yellow line is the 200 SMA. The purple line is the 20 SMA. What I do have turned on the 20 SMA is if I right click here and I go to edit study, you're going to see show breakout signals. I turned it from no to yes. What that's going to do is give me these little green and red arrows every time we close over or underneath the 20 SMA. It just helps my eyes gravitate to those short-term change in trends. What we have here is some black lines that are on the screen. This is a linear regression channel 50. If I open it up, all it is a study, linear regression CH50. That's all it is. I don't change anything on there. There's no settings to change. It's just a linear regression channel 50. And then I've got pivot points. Okay. So pivot points, what this is going to do is take the prior day high and low and the average price and kind of combine that pivot and combine that price through a mathematical equation, and it's going to give us an average price, right? That's going to be the pivot point, which is that purple dotted line you see. And then you're going to see some red dotted lines and then some green dotted lines. The red dotted lines are areas of resistance, resistance 1, resistance 2. And this is support 1, support 2. So if you notice today on the NQ, we really traded with inside the range between support 1 and resistance 1 and over under this pivot. Now, again, around 45 to 55% of the time, intraday price action always will gravitate back towards that pivot level. Okay, so at any point in time, if we're below the pivot level, there's a good chance that we're going to at least test it one time in the day, or if we're above it, there's a good chance we are going to test it to the downside at least once. So again, if you kind of notice, we've been starting off the days very, very choppy, very, very volatile, where we're kind of going up, we're going down. If you guys were to look at your daily charts on the NQ, we've been going sideways for 4 days. We are setting up for a big move, so be ready for it, whether it breaks out to the top side or the downside. But again, all you're going to need to do is look at these pivot levels, understand where you're at with your moving averages, and then when you get some confirmation, whether it's above or below, is when you're going to want to take those positions, and you're going to want to sell into the next area of resistance, whatever that area of resistance is, whether it's a linear regression, whether it's the resistance 1 zone, whether it's a support zone or a 200, it doesn't matter. They're all equal parts of supply and demand. So notice this first candle here that's really going to strike your eyes is a 735 candle. Even though you got a setup short, there was no confirmation. You got another setup short, there was no confirmation. You got a setup long, there was no confirmation off the bell. Kind of just very choppiness action. So even though you were getting setups, there was no confirmations for you to enter these trades. The first real setup that you have is once we do get back over the 20 and 200 day moving average, and we stop at this linear regression and this pivot point, you'll notice that as soon as we confirm this pivot point is where we want to get long. That's also the day's highs, the opening range highs. We get long here, and this went from a price of around 1611 all the way up to a price of around 1647. So if you notice that we went from a 1611 to 1647, that's around a 30 to 33 point move. So depending on what your take profit is, depending on what your stop loss is, again, if you're going to give yourself 15 points, 20 points, 30 points of a stop loss, 10 points, 12 points of a stop loss, this would have triggered and just paid without even putting you into any drawdown. If you're going to do a 1-to-1 or even a 1-to-2, right? Depending on if you're going to risk 12 points or 15 points. If you're risking 15 points, it was definitely a 2R trade. If you were risking 20 points, it was a 1R trade. If you were risking 12 points, it was almost a 3R trade. So again, just depending on how much your risk is going to depend on what your risk to reward is. Now you can see that we do pull back right into this pivot point and linear regression. What would we be looking for? If we're going to look to take a bounce play, what you want to see is a green candle taking out red at a significant area of support. So we have a pivot point as well as a linear regression. We pull back in there. We have a green candle taking out red. You would be getting long here at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Your stop loss would be a 1-bar stop, either a close below the 20 SMA, 200, or the low wick. You sit in this trade for about 15 minutes and a little bit of a period of drawdown. Really wasn't that much, from 16,017 all the way down to around 16,000, 17 points worth of drawdown. Again, so kind of widen out those stops a little bit. 20 points, 25 points, 22 points is sufficient enough. And then let this trade run. And where are you going to let this trade run? Into the next area of supply. Where are you going to take profits? Into the next area of supply. Where is the next area of supply on this chart at this particular time? The linear regression. And look at how we test it and touch it to a T, guys. We touch this area here. That price is 16,069. So if you look at an entry price of around 16,022 to 69, you're looking at around 35, almost 40 points worth of room there. So this is 2 for 2 so far. Look at the test to the downside. We get that close below the 20 SMA. We stop just shy of this pivot point. Now, what I would look to do is, instead of taking it on the first wave here, I would like for the pivot point to get broken first, even though it is confirming the 20 SMA. Let it break this pivot point, and as soon as we get that new low, then I'm going to take the short here, and you can see at 10 a.m. we get a nice short position from the low of this broken pivot of 16,007 all the way down to a price of 15,978. So again, only 20 plus points there. So you can really start to see the power of these pivot points and these supply and demand zones. All you have to do as a trader, there was another great one here at the end of the day at 12:30, which I actually took part of this one. We got a 20 SMA setup here, also closed above the pivot point. We got the confirmation, no drawdown whatsoever, and we just ran for around 20, 30 points. So if you look at these areas of supply and demand, and you're patient enough and you're disciplined enough to kind of sit back and wait for them to happen, you will be a much better trader. It's when traders try to go long off the bell and then they get stopped out, and then they try to go short because they think we're breaking a low of day. They have no idea where the supply and demand zones are at, is when you tend to get chopped up. It's when you tend to short here, go into the money a little bit, and not understand you have support here, and then you get bounced and trapped and get shaken out of this position. You have to be patient. You have to have controlled risk, meaning you have to have not a lot of contracts on the table so you can be able to withstand the movements of the NQ. If you don't want to give yourself so much room and you want to play something a little bit slower, go ahead and play the ES. You can probably risk anywhere between 4 and 6 points, and then you can kind of decipher how many contracts you want to put on. But I think 4 to 6 points on the ES is sufficient enough, and try to target 4 to 6 points for that 1-to-1 risk to reward ratio. But again, it moves a lot slower than the NQ. So if you're not really that patient enough as it is to wait for the NQ setups, you're going to get more frustrated trading the ES. So again, if you find yourself needing that faster pace, needing more setups, needing bigger, quicker moves, trade the NQ. If you're someone who doesn't like the big volatility, and even though you can make a little bit more money because the moves are bigger on the NQ, the losses are also bigger on the NQ, then trade the ES, right? It's going to be a lot slower. You're going to have a little bit less risk. You can play, micro contracts to kind of get your feet wet and get your bearings going, and then you can kind of take it from there. But again, so what do we have on the charts? The 200, the 20 SMA, linear regression, channel 50, and pivot points, okay? Go to studies, go to add study, all studies, and you can find them here. Go to P-P for the pivot points. Go to, where's the linear regression? It's going to be under the L-M. I-L. Go to I-L for your linear regression channel 50, and then your moving averages are just going to be your moving averages. It's simple moving averages, right? So go down to moving averages and then scroll over to simple moving average. And that's what I have on my charts, guys, and that's what I'm looking at when I'm looking to scalp. I use the 5-minute time frame. Now again, you could use a 2-minute, you can use the 1 minute, you can use the 30-minute, the 15-minute. All the same rules apply. Just understand the bigger the time frame that you're playing, the bigger the risk that you're putting on the table, because of the swings in the ATR is going to be a lot bigger. If you're looking for areas to take profit, then one study that I would also add on here would be the ATR, right? So if we notice the ATR, right, if I put this ATR on here and I look at this particular time here when we got this set up over, right, over the pivot points and the linear regression, at this point in time, the ATR, meaning average true range of a 5-minute candle, was 18 points. So if you want to target 18 to 20 points and an 18 to 20 point stop loss, that's a 1-to-1 trade. Let's see if you would have got it. 1612 all the way up to 1642, 100% you would have got a 1-to-1 trade here. You could have even got a 2R trade on this by just risking 18 points. Let's look at the next trade here. This trade here, ATR was sitting at 15.5. So let's call it 16 to 18 point stop loss. And what we would be looking for is a 16 to 18 point take profit. So from 16.15 was the price all the way down here to 16,000. Yes, you would have got your 1-to-1. You would have actually got a 2R trade on that. So again, if you're having trouble using stops, look at the ATR and just increase it by 1 or 2 points, right? So if the ATR is 18, put a 20-point stop loss. If the ATR is 16, add 2 points, 2.5 points, make your stop loss 18 points, and then target that 1-to-1. And then if you're trading multiple contracts, take half size off at 1-to-1 and let a runner go. Leave your stop loss to break even or put your stop loss in profit, and you might get that 2R. And that's how you're going to really able to start amplifying your P&L. I hope this video helps you guys. Again, if you guys want to trade with me, you guys want access to coaching, you want access to the courses and to trade with the community, right now it is half price. That link is down in the description box. I'll see all of you guys next time.